Don't lie. Now, you could say, I always say this, you could say be transparent, or be, there's another word you could use for that. But I think don't lie sounds more impactful. Don't lie. Don't lie. And when I say don't lie, I mean three things. Don't lie to yourself, because you know if you're cutting a corner. You can do a half a job that I'll never see, but you know. So don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to the customer. That's a given, right? What we say to the customer we can do, we have to be able to deliver. So don't lie, because that's going to bring problems down the line. So don't lie to the customer, and don't lie to me, because everybody has my trust until they break it.
You're listening to the Life and Leadership Podcast, where leaders from across the globe share openly about the trials, triumphs, and lessons learned along the leadership journey. Whether you're a seasoned, new, or aspiring leader, get ready to receive powerful insights and practical takeaways to help you grow in your leadership. And now, here is your host, Mary Eniolu.
How important would you say it is for leaders to keep investing in their own personal development?
I think this is really important. You have the training to do the job. You get good at the job. You get the leadership role. You don't necessarily get the training on the leadership per se. So I think that's really important. And I think otherwise you can sort of progress in that early stage of your career, and then you can almost stagnate a little bit when you get into that leadership role, because you're kind of the leader then. Mm-hmm. So I think therefore, your personal development, you have to push that yourself. You have to, look for opportunities to do that that are maybe extracurricular to your company. I think if you enjoy and love what you do, then you'll always see that personal development as being good. It's time well spent, even if it's time that comes out of your working life hours. I think you'll always see that as time well spent. And I think if you see that as developing yourself as a person, as much as they are developing yourself as a leader, that's going to make you more successful at work, I think, again, you're more likely to buy into it. You're more likely to find that time for it, more likely to get the most from it. So, and I also think it doesn't always necessarily come from going on a personal development course. I also think it comes from being open-minded, saying yes to things. Yes. I have said yes to come and do this pod with you, and having met you, this has developed me. Talking to you for 45 minutes has developed me, because I've learned things from you, some of the technical things on leadership, some of the people that you mentioned that you've read about, etc. So even doing that is personal development, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely makes sense. Just being in that learner space, which is what I absolutely love about my job, being able to be in that space continuously, because like you say, yes, you may be great at the job, but at the end of the day, your job kind of flows through you. So you may have two people who are fantastic at what they do. They've got similar skill sets, but their mindset, their attitude, the way they think, all influences how they deliver the goods, And so when we talk about personal development, for me, it's just so non-negotiable that we do that, because it will affect how far you go and how you're able to influence others in life as well. So we're talking about the Life and Leadership Podcast, so we like to keep it real. I know you're fantastic, you're amazing, you've got this amazing career, but there must have been times in your life where things didn't quite go as planned. So I would like you to share with us, because we know that sometimes you're looking at someone from a distance and you're thinking, oh, they must know everything. They must always get it right all the time. And we know that's just not true. So share with us some time in your life where you, in quote, failed, right?
Yeah.
Putting it bluntly, where it just didn't work out. How did you deal with it? And yeah, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think it's really key. We try to promote, or I try to promote, this culture within my team that failing is okay, because it's actually part of growth. And if you fail but fail fast, and learn and move, is kind of a good thing, because it leads to growth. I think the two I have two instances of this, and it's very clear now when you look back. It's always not always clear in the moment, but it's very clear when you look back that these failures shaped my career and shaped where I am now. And that the first one came with when I applied for a new role with Marriott. I'd been with Marriott for 16 years, a long time, institutionalized, you might say. Had been successful. Every 2 years I'd got another job, 3 years, whatever. I'd moved, I was developed, and I'd got to this UK national account manager role. Great role, a great team, but I was ready for the next step. And Marriott went through a kind of a restructure at that time in the UK. It didn't affect me per se, but it meant that there were roles that came available, and the role that I kind of was looking for was the next role available, and that was to be like a region, like a cluster director of sales for like a region of the UK. And I kind of went for the role, and I wasn't successful. And I thought I did a great job, and I positioned myself really well. I was succeeding. I was, I thought I positioned myself really well. But the learning that I took, and this is the key part. This is what I say to people when I talk to students, things like that. The learning here was, I made sure that I went and asked the question following: what could I have done? What did I not have? When I come for this role again, what do I need to have to make the difference? And one of the key things, apart from maybe some of the politics of the restructure, but one of the key things was that I wasn't managing a team at that time. I'd worked my way, I'd had a little team as I'd worked my way up, but then I was in an account manager role, so I was just responsible for myself and my accounts.
Right.
So without having that, you can say what you would do in a scenario, but if you cannot give those practical examples of what you are doing when moving into then it was a leadership role, it was leading this area, then you're only giving a theory. And I think that really then pushed me and made the decision for me that I had to leave Marriott. I couldn't go back to property because I'd kind of progressed into a more senior role. I couldn't necessarily go back to property as a director of sales within Marriott because their properties might not have been progressive for me to do that. So I took the decision to leave Marriott, go to an independent hotel, the Melia Hotels International, great hotel, 5-star luxury, a real challenge, but with a team. And having a relatively big team because it was an independent hotel, but not a huge team, 5 people, etc. But I was then managing people day to day at a high level, in a high profile role, and it allowed me 3 years later, sorry, when Melia came knocking with a cluster director of sales role, that role that I didn't get for Marriott, it allowed me to get that role because I'd gone away, made that decision, took my learnings, had the ability to set that right, and then get the next role, and off we go from there. So I think that was the really key example. And the other example was similar, to be fair. It was just earlier in my career where, again, I'd gone for a director of sales role, not been successful, but it was about the learnings from that failure. What do I need to do to make that right? How do I grow from that? Which allowed me to then get that next role in 2 and 3 years' time, which then led to 2 and 3 years' time later, this role where I am now. And then, that wouldn't have happened without that failure.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. So, I say to people, failure is your friend. And it's a really good friend because it's only good friends that tell you the truth. If you fail at something, it's because there's something you're learning, there's something you don't know, there's something you're missing. And so when that experience of failure is teaching you something, it's telling you, hey, pay attention to me, there's something you're missing here. And so if we just take that learning and move forward, then we get the results, like you say. So I really love that, especially the first example. So going back to ask, what was missing? What was it you wanted that I didn't have? And with that information, then making a choice, because you could have still stayed where you were,
Yeah.
hoping something would change next time.
Yeah.
But that's wisdom, isn't it? Taking the information you have and making good choices, making good decisions with it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though at the time, like you say, it was moving to another organization, maybe out of your comfort zone, doing
Yeah.
something you hadn't done before. But you had a vision. Again, I think that's the power of vision. There was something you were working towards, and you saw this as a pathway to
Mm-hmm.
that. And that, I suppose, motivated you to make that choice, make that decision, go where you needed to be, do what you needed to do, so that when the opportunity came, you were ready. I mean, so many lessons there, this idea of preparing before the opportunity arises, not waiting for the opportunity to arise as well. But yeah, I think that's amazing, because failure, that's all failure is. Failure is just telling us there's something you need to learn here. And it shows that you're trying something you didn't know before. It shows
Mm-hmm.
that you're not, because nobody ever fails doing something they know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're failing, it means you're trying something new, which is important. We can't just keep doing the same old, same old, same old. So I'm on a mission to normalize failures. I love to ask that question and get people to just speak into it, so everyone knows we all fail. Doesn't matter how fantastic we all look on social media, we all fail, and it's just a learning curve. So if I were to ask you, what are 3 mantras that you live by? What
Good
would
one.
they be?
Good one. I think again. I think I mentioned this in the when we saw each other last. There's a great podcast out there, the High Performance Podcast. I'd recommend anybody to have a look at it, especially if you like sport, because it's quite kind of it talks to high performing sports people and entrepreneurs and leaders uh, uh, about high performance and part of what they do in the podcast is ask people what are their 3 non-negotiables. And when hearing that from people, it led me to think about my 3 non-negotiables.
Mm,
And what I think, especially from a leadership point of view, and you know, uh, building high performing teams, I think it was really important to lay those non-negotiables out on the table to my team so that they could understand what I thought high performance was and have an understanding of why that shapes the decisions that I make, the requests that I ask of them, how I lead them, and that's not to say that they then therefore need to adopt those 3 mantras for me. But I think once they understand that, it led to them thinking about their own, which I think was quite a really nice exploratory thing to do with the team, and to then share them also. But from my perspective, my three mantras. First of all, I say uh, be dedicated. So we've talked a little bit about that already. Be dedicated doesn't mean doing your emails at 3 a.m. It doesn't mean being the absolute first in the office and the absolute last out of the office. It means being dedicated to your role in the relevance of what your role is, and ensuring that that you put in the work that's needed to deliver whatever it is you need to do. So being dedicated is one. And I think when my team see that from me, also, they see the expectation because they see the example. You can't say one thing and then be another. So be dedicated. My second one is don't lie. Now you could say, I always say this, you could say be transparent or be, there's another word you could use for that. But I think don't lie sounds more impactful. Don't lie.
Don't
Um,
just do it.
don't lie. And when I say don't lie, I mean 3 things. Don't lie to yourself because you know if you're cutting a corner. You can do a half a job that I'll never see, but you know. So don't lie to yourself.
Mm,
Don't lie to the customer. That's a given, right? What we say to the customer we can do, we have to be able to deliver. So don't lie because that's going to bring problems down the line. So don't lie to the customer, and don't lie to me because everybody has my trust until they break it. So those are that's the 3 pillars of don't lie. And then my last one is live the brand So I think it's really important that whatever brand you work for, or whatever company you work for, that you live the brand. I think
Mm.
if you're lucky enough to work for a brand, or lucky enough to be able to choose the company that you work for, and that you choose a company that has similar values, similar ethics, similar mantras to the ones that you have, then you're going to be able to live that brand and be an embodiment of that brand. And I think whether you're selling, or whether you're in operations, or whether you're in the administrative side of the business, if you can act and be, deliver the job that you do in the vision of the brand that you work for,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can go far wrong. I think if you have a totally different view to the company that you work for, I think it's always going to be an uphill battle to get that high performance.
Mm.
But I think if you, like I say, live that brand, you embody that brand, you feel so much more confident in what you do, then you're going to deliver it well.
I love those three. I never heard that third one before, leave the brand, but I love it. I think that can actually be a whole topic for discussion. How do you
Mm-hmm.
leave the brand? How do you position yourself where your values and the values of the organization you work with merge? And you're actually, because you talked about that, the good advice your father gave you, believe in what you're selling. And
Yeah,
basically that's what you're saying. Believe
yeah,
in what you're saying, believe it and live it. So believe it and live it. I love that.
yeah,
But really important to set upfront expectations because they prevent back end disappointments. Sometimes we leave things unsaid and we expect that people should know, people should pick it up, people should just know that's what's expected of them. But like you say, if you set it all out and said, these are my non-negotiables. These are the things that are important to me. And so they know where you're coming from. Next time you say something or somebody lies and you respond in the way you respond, they know. So setting upfront expectation for your team, really, really, really important. I'm going to ask you two more questions, if you
go
don't
for it.
mind.
Love it.
So, what would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned so far? So not just leadership lesson, but just
Mm.
your life lesson. What's been the biggest lesson you've learned so far?
Oh, big question, Mary. Big question.
If you're enjoying this conversation, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That will help us bring more inspiring conversations to you and reach more people. And if you know of a leader that should be featured on the Life and Leadership podcast, please reach out to us with their details. We would love to hear from you.
It's a big lesson that I've had actually from, it's not necessarily in the industry, from somebody who wasn't in the industry, a leader that's not in the industry that I really look up to. This guy called Phil Jones, who's the leader of Brother, the company Brother. And I remember going to meet him one day because I was trying to sell to him. I was trying to, get the Brother to have their events with us at the hotel and things like that. And I remember going to meet him, and usually you'll have these meetings. You want to build rapport, you want to talk, you want to, and then you want to turn to business. You want to get business, and you might meet with someone for half an hour, 45 minutes. And I think I was in with Phil for an hour and a half, maybe. And we talked a little bit about business, but we moved on to talk about leadership, and we moved on to talk about how I could become a better leader in my career, and I think I came away from it feeling a little bit almost guilty. I was like, I can't believe I kept him for that time, and he's such a busy guy and an inspirational guy, and why would he have time to talk to me about that? And yeah, I think I came away with one, loads of learnings and loads of inspiration and everything else. But I came away with a feeling of that's what being a leader is. Being a leader is giving parts of yourself
Mm,
to others to help them,
mm,
develop, or to help them see a new angle, or to help them, you know, that is what being a leader is. Being a leader isn't kind of defined by the management of your direct
mm-hmm.
reports. Being a leader is setting an example to the wider business, to the wider customers, to the industry that you work in, that I think is what being a leader is. And I think, that's why I enjoy, doing things like this, because again, I think I took that real lesson from him, that giving some of your time and some of your energy to people is what being a leader is. I can't remember the networking organization that used to say "givers gain," but that's
Yeah, yeah,
true,
yeah.
right? Right? When you put that out there as well, you gain back. So yeah, I think that was something that really impacted me
Mm.
from a leadership point of view.
But you can't go wrong. I mean, there will always be seed time and harvest. And if you sow seeds, you will always reap a harvest. So I love, as long as it's done in the right spirit. I love the way Zig Ziglar puts it. He says, if you help enough people get what they want, you will never need to worry about what you want. And I just love that. And just doing it from that place of really giving, not just giving to receive. I always say there's a difference between a gardener and a farmer, right? A gardener does it as and when their livelihood does not depend on it, right? But a farmer knows you have to just keep sowing. You just have to keep sowing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just living that life of giving really makes such a huge difference. Final question. What advice would you give to someone just starting out in leadership? So they've been amazing in their, amazing tech guy, amazing salesperson, and now they say, step up to leadership. And, obviously they might be finding it daunting.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone like that?
I think something always resonated with me about that kind of the whole turning the pyramid upside down. You're the leaders, so you're at the top of the pyramid, and everybody else is underneath you, and actually turning that upside down, really understanding that you're underneath that pyramid,
Mm,
and supporting, and removing the barriers, but holding up, your team to then go and perform. I think when you start to look at it in that way, you start to see the benefits of success from your organization, however big that organization is. And I think, it takes a little bit of understanding your ego, and trying to remove your ego, from your daily work, or from your position, or from your uh, leadership. And I think, I very much try to kind of, where I can, remove that, to gain that empathy, and to have a different style of leadership. I think that I think is authentic, but that comes with challenges also. Sometimes that ego is there for leaders as a shield to
mm.
protect them. I kind of, as much as possible, want to try to kind of remove that, and give an authentic self that people will buy into and follow me because of that.
I think you're right, especially when you talk about sometimes we put up these facades, we wear this mask, and sometimes yes, the egotistic way of being is just a facade. It's just something we're putting up to protect ourselves. Maybe because we think that's how we're going to gain the respect, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Of those that we're leading, we don't want to come across as looking weak and all of these things. So it takes real confidence and courage actually to live out the kind of leadership that you're describing, which is the leadership of the future, is the leadership of the 21st century, especially when we start to talk about millennials and the Gen Zs coming into the workforce. They're not going to stand for the type of leadership that perhaps I grew up under, where, it's just the way it is kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
So, no, I think that's great advice, empowering your team. Again, it goes back to where we started, doesn't it? Empowering your team to succeed will actually empower you to succeed, because there's just so much you can do on your own. But if you have a team of people that are really there for you, really loyal, really care, really dedicated, that trust you, then they can go above and beyond for you. And that's how you actually achieve the success that comes back to you, because everybody's going to go, Scott is the man, but Scott knows the team is a team.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a virtuous circle, isn't it? It really is. But it can so often be it can so often be done wrong, I suppose, if that's what we're saying, or can be done in a different way. And again, I think it's also, my point as well was around sort of longevity of success as well, and longevity, like the culture of success,
Mm,
because I think you can lead in a different way and get success quickly,
Yeah.
and perhaps, leave a trail of destruction behind you.
Yeah. And it goes to the question, what is success to you?
Mm.
So if your definition of success is, the company is making loads of money and we're achieving our organizational goals, and that's all success is to you, then maybe you've achieved success, leaving a trail of destruction behind you. But like you say, if you're thinking legacy, if you're thinking values, if you're thinking vision, if you're thinking empowerment, then that's a different kind of success you're achieving, isn't it?
Let me tell you, that's a good example, right? So going back to the person who I mentioned was really impactful in my career, Nicola. It's crazy how many people worked underneath her who've gone on to really senior sales roles within hospitality sales in the UK.
There you go.
And onwards, compared to probably any other leader that I can think of in my career, or that I saw in my career, or whatever else, who might have been great individuals, but had nowhere near the same number of people go on to be successful or whatever else. So I think that's the point, isn't it? The results and the revenue and the targets and the goals and the sales will kind of come from developing people, them being happy, being empathetic to their situation, motivating them. That will lead to the results. If all we're focused on is that end result, actually, we, like you say, leave a trail of destruction along the way.
Yeah, no, and this quote just came to my mind. I'm probably not going to say it right, but it basically says the greatness of a leader is not determined by how great they are, the great things they do, but it's determined by how they empower others to do great things. And that is just so true. That is just so true. That really is the hallmark of a great leader. Thank you so much, Scott, for your time.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Lots of great stuff here that we've talked about. And I know our audience will be really impacted and empowered by the conversation we've had here today. So thank you for coming on the Life and Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Mary.
The Life and Leadership Podcast is brought to you by Can Do Academy, where we help organizations develop high-performing teams and extraordinary leaders. To find out more about our work, visit candoacademy.net. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Life and Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit the subscribe button. That will help us reach more people and inspire more leaders. See you on the next episode.